Stop everything you know about history. Look at this hole in the solid pink granite. It wasn't made by a copper chisel. It wasn't made by a stone hammer. It was made by a machine that defies our current understanding of physics. We are standing on the ruins of a high-tech industrial civilization that existed thousands of years before the first wheel was supposedly invented. Today, we go beyond the textbooks. We are looking for the core evidence of the gods' machinery, from the liquid stone of the pharaohs to the mechanical scars left in the bedrock. This is not the history you were taught. This is the truth they cannot explain. Don't blink, because what you're about to see will change your perception of humanity forever. What if the pyramids are not what they seem? For over a century, historians have maintained a fragile narrative that primitive men, armed with nothing but copper tools and raw muscle, built the most precise structures on Earth. But look closer at the surface of these stones. The granite doesn't show the jagged, irregular marks of a handheld chisel. It displays the smooth, fluid signature of a high-speed machine. We are told these were tombs for god kings, yet the engineering suggests something entirely different. Today, we aren't just looking at ancient architecture. We are investigating an engineering impossibility. A technology so advanced, so efficient, that it vanished without a trace, leaving behind only its silent, stony footprints. Imagine a world where the laws of physics were understood differently, where sound and chemistry could soften the hardest granite. This isn't just about the past, it's about a lost blueprint of humanity that could redefine our future. Today, we strip away the academic myths to find the mechanical truth hidden in the cold, rose granite of Egypt. Welcome to Core Evidence, where the physical proof outweighs the historical theory. We are diving into the heart of a mystery that has remained unsolved for over 4,000 years. From the depths of the Serapeum to the heights of the Giza plateau, we will examine the drill holes, the saw marks, and the chemical anomalies that prove the ancients were not just builders, they were master technicians of a lost age. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about the Great Pyramids. The rose granite of Aswan is not just a stone. It is an engineer's nightmare. On the Mohs scale of mineral hardness, granite sits at a formidable rank of 7. To cut it effectively today, we require diamond-tipped saws and massive hydraulic pressure. Yet, across the Egyptian landscape, we find 1,000-ton obelisks and colossal statues extracted from the bedrock, as if they were carved from soft wax. Traditional Egyptologists suggest the use of dolerite pounders, smashing stone against stone, for decades. But the math simply doesn't support this. To achieve the mirror-like surfaces we see in the Valley Temple, a pounder would be useless. It would shatter the crystal structure of the stone, rather than polish it. There is a missing link in this production line. Look at the corners of these blocks. They are perfectly square, with tolerances that match modern aerospace standards. If you were to use a copper chisel on this granite, the copper would blunt in seconds, while the stone remains unscathed. This suggests the ancients had access to liquid stone, or chemical softening. Could they have possessed a forgotten substance that temporarily dissolved the molecular bonds of the granite, allowing it to be shaped like clay? Modern engineers are baffled by the feed rates observed in these quarries. The marks left behind show an instrument that was moving through the rock at a speed that defies manual labor. This isn't just craftsmanship, it's a mechanized industrial process. We are looking at a society that had mastered the very elements of matter. They turned the Earth's hardest crust into a canvas for their eternal designs. The question is no longer if they had advanced technology, but what that technology was, and why it disappeared from our history books. Deep beneath the sands of Saqqara lies a place that defies every conventional historical explanation: the Serapeum. Here, in narrow tunnels, where there is barely enough oxygen for a dozen men, sit 24 massive granite boxes, each weighing up to 100 tons. The logistical nightmare of moving these behemoths through such tight quarters is staggering. Even with modern cranes, the task would be nearly impossible. But the true mystery is not the transport. It is the precision. These boxes are constructed with an accuracy that matches the most sophisticated CNC machines of the 21st century. The interior corners are exactly 90 degrees, and the flat surfaces are so perfectly level that a beam of light cannot pass under a precision machinist square. Why would a primitive culture go to such extreme lengths for boxes they claimed were for bulls? The engineering tells a different story. If you apply the geopolymer theory here, the mystery dissolves. Instead of moving a 100-ton block, imagine the ancients transporting limestone powder and chemical binders in small bags. They were casting the granite in place, using wooden molds. This would explain the perfect fit within the narrow alcoves and the incredible interior finish. It wasn't about brute force, it was about superior chemistry. The Serapeum boxes aren't just artifacts. They are silent witnesses to a high-tech industrial past. They represent a level of standardized manufacturing that we didn't achieve again until the Industrial Revolution. As we stand in these cold tunnels, we must ask, were these chambers actually part of a massive energetic system? Or perhaps a storage facility for a technology we are only now beginning to understand? The evidence is etched in the stone, waiting for those with the courage to see it. Evidence is a stubborn thing. It remains long after the theories have crumbled. Scattered across the Giza plateau and the sun-drenched ruins of Abu Sur, we find the sonic scars of a lost industry. These are tube drill holes, bored into the hardest rose granite with a precision that haunts modern engineers. When you examine the interior of these holes under a microscope, you find something impossible, a continuous, spiral groove etched into the rock. In modern machining, this is known as a feed rate, the speed at which a drill penetrates a material. Here is the shock. The feed rate of these ancient drills was at least 500 times greater than anything we can achieve with our best diamond-tipped equipment today. This means the tool wasn't just rotating, it was vibrating. It was likely an ultrasonic drilling technology, using high-frequency sound waves to shatter the crystal structure of the granite, turning the hardest stone on Earth into a soft paste. Think about the implications. To power such a tool, you need an energy source. You need a standardized manufacturing process. You need a level of metallurgical knowledge that official history claims didn't exist for another 3 millennia. We see these same marks on the colossal statues in the Ramesseum, where the complex curves of the human face were carved into granite with a mathematical perfection that matches CNC precision. This wasn't the work of thousands of slaves with copper tools, it was the work of a few master technicians with a lost sonic technology. The stone itself has kept the record of their machines. Every spiral groove is a fingerprint of a high-tech past that we are only now beginning to decode. If we accept the evidence of these drills, we must accept that the Bronze Age title given to ancient Egypt is the most persistent mystery of the Great Pyramid is not its size, but its assembly. How were 2 million stones, some weighing up to 70 tons, placed so closely together that you cannot even slide a razor blade between them? For decades, we visualized armies of slaves dragging blocks up massive ramps. But there is a more elegant, more scientific explanation. The geopolymer theory. Professor Joseph Davidovits, a world-renowned materials scientist, proposed a revolutionary idea. The stones were not carved, they were cast. This wasn't primitive masonry, it was advanced chemistry. By grinding soft limestone and mixing it with natural binders like natron and kaolin clay, the ancients created a geopolymer, a liquid stone that hardens into a substance indistinguishable from natural rock. This explains the perfect fit. If you pour a liquid mixture into a wooden mold, it will take the exact shape of the blocks around it, leaving no gaps. It explains why we find tiny air bubbles, microscopic fibers, and even human hair embedded deep within the pyramid blocks, things that simply do not exist in natural limestone quarried from the earth. It explains the high concentration of water within the stones, a chemical signature of a man-made process. This technology would have allowed the ancients to print the pyramids in 3D, transporting bags of powder rather than impossible weights of solid stone. This is the core evidence of a chemical genius that vanished. They didn't just understand the geometry of space, they understood the chemistry of matter. They could turn the very dust of the earth into a mountain. While the world looks for ramps and pulleys, The real secret is hidden in the molecular bonds of the limestone itself. The pyramids were not built by brute force, but by the sophisticated application of materials science, a lost alchemy that allowed them to mold the landscape of Egypt to their will. If you want to see this smoking gun of ancient machinery, you must go to the granite quarries of Aswan. There, lying half severed from the bedrock, is the unfinished obelisk. If completed, it would have weighed nearly 1,200 tons, a single piece of solid granite taller than a 10-story building. But the mystery is not just its size, it's the way it was being cut. When you look at the trenches surrounding the obelisk, you don't see the marks of chisels or the impact of dolerite pounders. Instead, you see smooth, rhythmic scoops. It looks as if a giant ice cream scooper moved through the granite, as if it were soft butter. There are no fracture lines, no signs of the violent stress that comes from hammering. Everything about the site suggests a process of softening or thermal erosion. Modern engineers have noted that the walls of these trenches are perfectly parallel, showing a standardized tool path that suggests automation. How do you soften granite? Some researchers point to concentrated solar energy, using massive mirrors to create a heat so intense it melts the silica. Others suggest a chemical paste that temporarily turns the rock into a gel. Whatever the method, the evidence in Aswan proves that the ancients were using a non-mechanical way to move through the hardest crust of the earth. The obelisk was abandoned due to a crack, but even in its failure, it reveals the truth. It is a crime scene of ancient engineering. It shows us that they were comfortable working with weights that would paralyze a modern construction site. They didn't fear the stone, they owned it. The trenches in Aswan are the silent echoes of a machine that was turned off thousands of years ago, leaving us to wonder what kind of power once hummed through these granite canyons. But the mystery doesn't end in the desert sands. As we look deeper into the anomalies of our planet, a terrifying pattern begins to emerge. We've seen the impossible precision of Egypt, but what happens when we find similar core evidence in the most unreachable places on Earth? Deep within the Mariana Trench, at a crushing depth of 11,000 meters, cameras have captured structures that defy natural geological formation. Angular blocks, perfectly flat surfaces, and mysterious metallic signatures. Is it possible that the same lost high technology used to mold Egyptian granite was also utilized to build in the deep? The pressure at the bottom of the ocean is over 1,000 times that of the surface, a force that would crush any modern submarine like a soda can. Yet, if the ancients possessed the secrets of geopolymers, they wouldn't be building with weak materials. They would be casting structures that thrive under pressure, structures that become part of the Earth's crust itself. We find ruins in the Atlantic, submerged cities in the Pacific, and precision-cut stones in the heart of the Sahara. It suggests a global, unified, technological blueprint. A civilization that didn't just inhabit the land, but mastered the elements from the highest peaks to the deepest trenches. Are we looking at the remnants of a single, planetary-scale empire that understood the physics of sound and stone better than we do today? The connection is there, hidden in the shadows of the deep and the silence of the tombs. We are just now, finally, beginning to connect the dots. In the end, the physical evidence doesn't lie. Theories can be rewritten, history books can be censored, but the stone remains. The spiraling grooves in the granite, the molecular bond of the limestone, and the 100-ton boxes of the Serapeum are not the products of a primitive world. They are the inheritance of a shadow civilization. We are not looking at the evolution of man, we are looking at a recovery. We are like children playing in the ruins of a laboratory we no longer understand. Every time we find a new core evidence, we are reminded of how much we have forgotten. The ancients didn't need our electricity, because they understood the energy of the earth. They didn't need our steel, because they had mastered the alchemy of stone. As the sun sets over the Giza plateau, casting long shadows across the monuments of the gods, the question remains, why did they leave? And more importantly, are they truly gone? Or is their technology still functioning, hidden in the places we dare not go, watching us struggle to rediscover the fire they once controlled so effortlessly? We have stripped away the myth, we have looked at the mechanical truth, and the verdict is clear. History is not a straight line, it is a circle. And we are just now coming back to where they once stood. I am Daniel, and this has been core evidence. The truth is not out there, it is right here, etched into the cold, unyielding, rose granite. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stone.